Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Purple Door. I am the wellness coach, Nicole Castillo. If you haven't already, please go like and subscribe to Beyond the Purple Door YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Beyond the Purple Door Facebook page. I'm very excited for our show today. I would like to welcome Dr. Betty to the show. Dr. Betty is the founder and owner of Reborn Pelvic Health and Wellness, LLC. She is a physical therapist and extremely passionate about changing the standard of care during preconception, pregnancy, postpartum, and beyond. Dr. Betty is a world-class pelvic health expert. She has helped thousands of people throughout her 10-plus year career with function, feel, and moving better. She received her doctorate in physical therapy from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She truly believes that we are meant to live a life to the fullest, and she wants that for you too. Knowing firsthand how difficult it can be to navigate this stage of life, she wanted to help others get back to living their lives to the fullest without shame or embarrassment about their pelvic health. Unfortunately, more often than not, pelvic dysfunction can lead to postpartum mood disorders, secondary to an inability to get back to activity because of unexpected physical changes, pain, discomfort, leaking, or painful intimacy. As a doctor of physical therapy, she believes one-on-one care is best. She specializes in treating return to exercise postpartum with endurance sports and athletes. She's also passionate about finding the why behind your symptoms, optimizing your body, and empowering you to become the expert of your own body so that you can live life to the fullest. So welcome, Dr. Betty. Today we also have Tabitha Suval back with us again. Tabitha is the executive director at Radical Chiropractic Company. She grew up in a small town in Oklahoma in the Panhandle. Tabitha was heavily involved in dance growing up and was a competitive dancer and high school dance team captain throughout her high school years. Because of dance and being born with hypermobility, Tabitha has suffered from chronic hip, low back, knee, and foot pain for years. It wasn't until she met Dr. Taylor that she learned about the benefits of chiropractic care and how life-altering it can be for people suffering with pain and dysfunction. Tabitha is married to the Dr. Taylor Suval, the doctor at Radical Chiropractic. He has advanced certifications in torque release technique and Webster technique. At Radical, they care for everyone, but specialize in caring for pregnant mothers, infants, and kiddos. They're a neurologically based practice, meaning that they treat the whole nervous system dysfunction instead of just addressing symptoms. In her spare time, she enjoys hiking, being outdoors, lounging around with her 3 dogs, and spending her weekends at football or baseball games with their 3 children. Welcome, both of you. I am so excited for our episode today. This is a topic that's really close to my heart. And usually we begin our show with what it is that we're celebrating for the week. So I would love to hear from you ladies what you're celebrating this week.
So this is our second week in our new home of Radical Chiropractic in West Jordan. We finally moved out of our tiny space in Murray. So we're just enjoying that and being here and closer to home.
Yay. Well, congratulations. It looks beautiful from what I've seen. And I do need to book I need to book an appointment or 10 with you soon with Dr. Taylor. How about Dr. Betty? What is it that you are celebrating today? Oh, sweetheart, you're muted.
Probably a little bit not so business involved, but I'm celebrating my 2-year-old almost being done cutting her 2-year-old molar teeth. Wow. I'm ready to be through that.
Yeah, that's very exciting part of development when kids get past these certain milestones that are particularly painful. So that is amazing to celebrate that. I am just celebrating being here with you girls today. This topic is very near and dear to my heart, as we were talking about a little bit before the episode started. I'm just curious for you, Dr. Betty, why pelvic health?
That's a great question. So I always have a physical therapist first. So I went down the pelvic health route. I was always the birth of my first, four, like, wow.
I think we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you, love.
Oh.
Let me try me and Tabitha muting out and see if that helps. Tabitha, maybe if we mute.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Let me start over. So I'm a physical therapist first, then an orthopedic physical therapist, and then a pelvic health physical therapist. And I got kind of into the pelvic health world after the birth of my first. I've always been interested in it, just didn't have the opportunity. And then it was like, oh my gosh, wow, this is a huge disservice to our birthing people that we are not performing the proper rehab after literally the biggest change of your life in your body, and even more so than like a knee surgery or shoulder surgery or anything like that. And so most people, like if they were to have knee surgery or shoulder surgery, would do rehab immediately right after for months and like get back to proper function and optimizing their body through that. And so with pregnancy and postpartum, it's like, oh, it's normal. It's normal. It's totally normal. It'll go away when you're not pregnant anymore. And then you literally give birth or sent home to take care of this small little being, and cook and clean and lift and do the laundry and lift the other children and all this stuff like that. And then, you wait 6 weeks, you go to your 6-week appointment and they're like, oh, you're good to go. You're cleared. You can go exercise. You can have sex. You can do all the things. And it's like, wait, this is so backwards. Like this is literally needs to change. So that's kind of how I got into it. Cause, myself, I thought, I was like, wow, this is really, really hard. And I'm a high level athlete. Like what is everyone else doing? And we need to do better. Like we just need to do so much better, of taking care of our people during this time frame of life. And it's a huge, opportunity to create success further down in life and to keep people active and doing the things they want to do. So that's where my passion comes from and why I got into it.
Yeah. So when would pelvic health, like when should we start? I don't know if this is a should question, but when is the appropriate time? Like I feel like this is such a taboo topic almost that like should be discussed very openly and frequently among women. When is the appropriate time? Like yeah. I have a daughter. I have an 18-year-old daughter, and I'm just curious, like, when is that conversation? When does that come up with your daughter? Or
I think if you take a really big lens out, I think it starts from the beginning, right? And it needs to be age appropriate through all of that, but like calling body parts what they are and not like calling it, doing the anatomy and when you're potty training them and making sure they don't have shoes on when they're in their house, like so they can develop their feet and their pelvic floor. Like it's a whole thing, right? It's not just the pelvic area. And so really starting back way in the beginning is like ideal, right? But when you really want to hone in on some stuff too, when there's the biggest change that's going to happen is during that, before, during, and after pregnancy. That's a pivotal time. But especially when you have, like you mentioned, little, whether it's little girls or girls going through puberty or becoming adults, like having those educational conversations is huge of like what's normal and what's not normal. So many people think peeing your pants is normal or not, painful menstrual cycles is normal or all that stuff like that. But none of that's normal. It's just common. And there's totally a lot that you can do about that. And so just being open and having great dialogue and communication with your kids is huge. And then during that preconception, pregnancy, postpartum time is really figuring out of like, okay, if I have back pain or SI joint pain or pubic bone pain, or I'm leaking, like all of those things are common, but they're not normal and you don't just have to deal with it. So intervening sooner would be beneficial. And then especially if you have any of those things postpartum, because some people don't have any issues and they're like, oh, my pregnancy was lovely and wonderful. Great, good for you, but not the most people, right? But just really jumping in and saying like, oh, this isn't normal and I can do something about it, and knowing and advocating for yourself, because the medical system's not going to advocate for you. They're going to be like, oh, that's normal. Oh, you're pregnant. Just give it some time. Have a glass of wine. You'll be fine. Like, and it's like, oh, we could do so much better. So
take these pain pills.
Take these pills, do this surgery. Like, there's so many different levels of intervention, and a lot of it can be taken care of holistically up front. on the front end, to help kind of prevent some of those other things too. So did that answer your question?
Yes. So what are some of those holistic things? I think I shared before, which I was kind of ashamed to share, that I had a bladder sling surgery back in 2018. I faced a lot of shame for that. I'm a mom of 3, so I've had 3 babies, and I'm 42. So when I had the surgery, I believe I was in my 30s, and I love to lift heavy weights. I love to run. I'm very athletic, and I was like sneezing and like crossing my legs, and like thought that was just normal. I'm curious about how common is it? Like, we talk about what's normal and what's common. How normal, or sorry, not normal. How common are these symptoms that we've just considered normal?
That's a great question. So there's new research all the time on that. And I think the most current stat that I heard was like 1 in 2 women have pelvic floor dysfunction. Like, that's nuts. That's crazy. And pelvic floor dysfunction can be anything from leaking, whether it's urine or fecal matter, to pain with intercourse, to pain with arousal, to tailbone pain, hip pain, like the list goes on, of different things that could happen. And so the stats are really high. It's actually, I would say you're out of the norm if you don't have something going on, quite honestly. And so these things can be helped with a lot of that holistic stuff that we touched on. We do a whole body system approach. And because you can't really isolate the pelvic floor out of the body, it's part of it, and it moves everything you do, right? You stand up, you move your leg, you move your arm. The pelvic floor is involved. And so it's really the cornerstone and the grand central station of energy exchange, if you will. And so we need to take a lens out and not just look inside the pelvis. It has to be a combination of both inside the pelvis and outside of the pelvis. And from a treatment strategy, we do a ton of things with like dry needling, myofascial mobilization, cupping, instrument-assisted mobilization, as well as like neuromuscular re-education on training how to activate muscles, lengthen muscles, coordinate muscles, all that sorts of stuff to really make that whole system work well. And that's where like a lot of like magic can happen.
So I am
or not
you did. I was just going to ask Tabitha. It was me, love. I was going to ask you where chiropractic comes in to support what it is that Dr. Betty does.
So we treat the nervous system, right, and the spine. So a lot of things can be fixed, like when we're talking about pregnancy, prenatal care, things like that, is our hips can be out of alignment. Our sacrum can be out of alignment. That's pushing on our uterus and not allowing it to be ready to like accept a baby. And so that's kind of why Dr. Betty and I have become friends, is because we have a lot of the same ideas about how we can best care for moms as they're getting ready to conceive and give birth, because we have to start learning and working together about treating those things holistically and not just sending everyone to the hospital for pain meds or crazy surgeries or C-sections and things like that.
When I went to see my doctor, the only option that I was given was surgery. So I was not aware till I talked with Tabitha. There are holistic alternatives that are available. I think a lot of the times when I have gone in for a medical issue, they really do push, like I had cysts on my ovaries. And so they really push surgery instead of doing things holistically. What does a care plan look like, say for a pregnant mom? Well, I'm guessing you guys would want to start with before people even conceive, right? But with pregnant women especially, is it within their first 6 weeks that they should be making an appointment to come in? Or
I would say from our perspective, we get some people ahead of time from like that upstream focus of coming in before they conceive, just because they want to like make sure they've heard of pelvic PT, they're on the up and know about things. We'll do like a preconception exam, if you will, to make sure like, okay, your pelvic floor is good. Is there anything else we need to optimize to help you get pregnant? Because fertility is also an issue, especially if it's mechanical. And so if people are having fertility issues, we can help with that from a nervous system regulation standpoint, or scar tissue from previous C-section or blocked tubes. There's all sorts of stuff that we can help from that end of things. And then when they come in, we would, if they're pregnant, we would do a full body movement analysis on them from head to toe, to see how they move as a whole person. And then individually on each of those areas of their entire spine, their rib cage, their breathing patterns, their abdomen, their hips, their pelvis, SI joints, tailbone, all the way down to feet. And then we'll do an internal exam as well. Typically we don't usually see people until after the first trimester. And that's primarily because 1, they don't know they're pregnant. And 2, you're usually not feeling the best. And so they're like, want to get at least through that clear on that first trimester. And then they'll come in then. And so I would say a majority of the people come in sometime in their second trimester or third trimester. Some people are coming in proactively, but a majority of like the majority of the world, like people don't seek care until there's an issue. And so we still, in practice, in clinical practice, see a lot more of people who are needing care and postpartum than we do of the upstream focus, but we still get a variety of both ends. I would just love for it to be more upstream, right? I think all of us holistic healthcare providers would want that. And that takes time to change the narrative in the world that we live in, to think about true healthcare and not sick care. So that's kind of when we see people is kind of second, third trimester in there.
How about you, Tabitha?
Yeah, so we actually can help couples get pregnant that have been struggling with infertility for a number of reasons. And so it's really cool to be able to get them in proactively and say, this is something that we're really after. All of the fertility doctors say it's probably not going to happen for us. Like, we're testing poorly on all of these things, but we want to try anyway. And so we can put them, under some pretty intense treatment plans to try to help them make sure that their pinched nerves are connected to that we're unpinching any nerves, so that the reproductive system is having proper hormone balance and possibility of fertility. It assures proper flow of the cerebrospinal fluid, which is connected to the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, which are responsible for producing those hormones that are vital for reproductive function. And like I mentioned earlier about the pelvis alignment, and lastly, that nervous system that we manipulate using the spine is the master control system to all body systems, all functions, including the reproductive system. So it's a really cool experience when we get to help those families see that there are other possibilities to getting pregnant. But obviously, like Dr. Betty said, we see most people 3 or 4 weeks before birth, and they've been told that they have a breech baby, that they might have to do an ECV, which commonly results in a C-section. And so we get those calls that are like, help, we need help now. And, that's really cool and great to be able to help those people, but it is cool to see the other side of it, the proactive side as well.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, how, I guess maybe that's the intention of this podcast, is for people to really see the benefits of wellness and healthcare instead of sick care or illness. Only going to the doctor when you have an illness. So being able to educate people on the benefits. Do you, Tabitha, run into people who maybe don't understand that pregnant women can go to a chiropractor? Is that something where people are like, I don't know, I haven't been pregnant for a long time, but I'm guessing, you and I know, I shared with you that the popping kind of scares me, the cracking kind of scares me, but being pregnant and having a baby inside of me, I guess hearing you or Dr. Taylor say, no, Nicole, chiropractic care is 100% safe for pregnant women, right?
Yeah. Not only is it safe for pregnant women, but it's also safe for infants. Specifically, Dr. Taylor is certified in Webster's technique, which is specifically for caring for pregnant women before, during, and after pregnancy. Torque release technique, which is a technique where he uses a tool and you lay on your stomach the whole time, so you're not manipulated. Your neck is not twisted and popped and cracked like so many people are scared of. And then he also is, well trained in caring for infants, because as we know, being born is one of the worst things that can happen to us, and our body kind of traumatic. If you had any, especially if you had a C-section or any complications during birth, that baby's neck was likely pulled on, and they should be checked for nervous system interference ASAP, so that they don't have to grow up with repeat ear infections and end up with ear tubes and colic and sinus infections and asthma, and just a plethora of things that we wish that more people knew. And as we get them coming through here, we're caring for people that have musculoskeletal disease, and they see pregnant women coming in here and kids coming in here, and they're like, wait a second, you see kids? And we're like, yeah, they're little people with spines. Of course we do. They need it more than we do, because we want to make sure that they're growing up healthy and don't end up with the same problems that we have.
Yeah, I love that. So Dr. Betty, do you have children that come see you? Do you have an age or demographic group of people that you serve? Like could somebody bring their infant to you in your practice?
That's a great question. So we're pelvic health, right? And there's more niches within pelvic health. So there's specifically like pediatric pelvic floor therapy for like constipation or bedwetting or like issues with that, potty training, that kind of stuff like that. I don't specifically specialize in that myself. Could we potentially help someone? Yeah, but I would want to send them to like a specialized pediatric pelvic floor therapist. We don't currently have anyone in our practice that does pediatrics. Generally speaking, most people that we're seeing are over the age of 18, because they need to be able to consent to an internal exam if that's appropriate for them. And then also we would potentially work with teenagers on painful periods, but we would stay external on all of that and do what's called visceral mobilization to the abdomen and work on the fascial mobility there. And so that's kind of like the scope of where we go. And like Tabitha knows, in chiropractic care, you can specialize in so many different things. We just are super passionate and want to be the best at what we do. And so we try and stay in our wheelhouse of like that before, during, and after pregnancy and that realm right there. Because honestly, you could do oncology, you could do pediatrics, you could do, there's gender reassignment surgeries, where that's a whole nother niche of whole different training. So we don't want to water down what we're really good at with doing some of those other things.
Yeah, I love that so much. So, do you see many athletes that come into your practice? Does weightlifting, was that a valid excuse? Saying that I love to lift heavy shit and
yep. Yep. Those are always fun, people, because I resonate with that as an athlete myself, and like being able to do what I want to do with my body when I want to do it and not have to worry about any of that stuff. So we see tons of like power lifters, weightlifters, runners, even a climber I've seen. Just any sport. I saw a hockey player, so soccer, like anything, it doesn't really matter. It's all about the system and how are you pressure managing, how are you breathing, what's your posture, and how can we control and manipulate those forces within your own body so that you're not leaking and you're able to do that fun stuff like lift the heavy stuff.
Yeah, well, and like running, because I loved running. I played soccer in high school, so running was one of my favorite things. And I could never run to my full potential, because if I did, I would leak. So it was an amazing feeling. I think I was actually at football with our boys play football together, and I was running and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm running right now and I'm not worried. Like, it's been long enough. I don't even have it in my mind anymore. But again, I did the surgery and I don't know how effective or how long that will hold, that sling will hold. Right. So I think even with having surgery, it would still be beneficial to have. Yeah.
So I'll just talk about myself briefly, but I met Dr. Betty because I am a patient of hers, or of Reborn Pelvic Health. And I called her and I was like, I have not had any kids of my, in my body, vaginally or otherwise. All of my children are adopted, but I was like, but I have pain with sex. Can you help me?
Me too.
And she was like, yeah, like, duh, right? And I was like, well, because she talks so much about pregnancy and what that kind of does to your pelvic floor. And so I was like, well, I don't know if she can help me, but maybe. And so she was like, yeah, of course. So one of Dr. Betty's docs takes really good care of me. I'm like soft discharged right now. Woohoo. But I was a dancer. And, Dr. Andrea and I kind of determined that like a lot of what was wrong with my pelvic floor and why it was so the way it was is because of my past and my dance and how loose my ligaments and my hips are and things like that. So really, she can help anybody.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I also experienced the pain. I think that's how we started talking about this topic, Tabitha, was because I also experienced that and just thought it was normal. And so being able to have this conversation, realizing that it's possible to be pain-free is really empowering, not only to myself, but I think also to my partner, that he would be very happy to not be concerned that he is hurting me, right? That it's something that's fixable.
Totally. I feel like that's probably our biggest barrier as pelvic health practitioners is people just don't know that we exist and then what we do and what we can help with. And from my seat, I talk about poop, pee, and sex all day long, and there's like nothing's off the table. Like I'm like, oh yeah, like no, that's not where like we can totally fix that. And they're like, but like I'll have even people come in and they'll say like, so I just had the best orgasm of my life, and I'm like, yeah. And they're like, is that from what we've been doing? I'm like, probably. Like we weren't intentionally like working on your orgasm, but like your whole nervous system is functioning optimally now. Everything's happy as a little clam, and blood flow's going places, and nerves are firing the way they should, muscles are working the way they should. And so, yeah, that's going to be a great benefit and a result of what we're working on. But like, people think like pain with intercourse is normal, or inserting a tampon is, if you can't do that, like that's an early sign ahead of time. If like your daughters are menstruating and they're like, I can't get a tampon in, like that's something that pelvic health can certainly address, and earlier intervention is better. And then like the leaking, no matter what, the tailbone pain or low back SI joint pain. I think it's like the stat on this is like 97% of people who have low back pain have pelvic floor dysfunction. And so it's like any low back person is like, you also need pelvic floor therapy too. So, and that's the cool thing about doing like chiropractic and PT together in conjuncture, the patient wins hands down. Like we're both focusing on the nervous system, just at different ends of it. And we have a huge crossover both directions. And like, it's so cool. Those are the patients that do the best overall, are the people who are doing both chiropractic and PT and are taking that initiative themselves to be like, I want healthcare. So.
Yeah, I love that so much. Well, I saw a statistic, and maybe my friend Lacey, she does pure romance parties. I love you, Lacey. But she was talking about like 50% of women have not had an orgasm. And so now that we're sitting here having this conversation, I'm wondering if they need to make appointments with Dr. Taylor and Dr. Betty to support them with having orgasms.
Well, I mean, absolutely. You know, it's just so crazy that there's so much that can be going on in our bodies that we refuse to talk about because it's so taboo, like Dr. Betty says, and that the more that we can kind of spread the word of this is how we can help you, and it doesn't have to be scary and it doesn't have to be taboo, like it can really change people's lives.
Yeah, well, and how empowering is it for you as a woman to have those resources available? But then also, I'm pretty sure that the men involved would be like, yeah, make an appointment and go. Because I can imagine that also would have an impact on their mental health and wellness when their partner is not experiencing the best experience possible because of pain in their body. So I just think it has the potential to save marriages, save intimacy. I'm sure there's people out there that are like, no, that this hurts. Like, so it's just like a no from me. So just imagine what would open up if there was just the pleasure without the pain. I think that's really, really beautiful.
Totally. I always say to my patients, especially, that it's so much bigger than the pelvic floor. Like you're coming in here because you have a pelvic floor something going on, and this was somehow you ended up here, which is great. I'm so thankful you're here, but it's bigger than the pelvic floor. It's getting the people back. And that's why I use that phrase, like living life to the fullest, of like, if you're feeling your best and you're able to participate in the exercise you want to do for your physical health, your mental health, and all that, and then you're able to go do things with your kids, like jump on the trampoline or be intimate with your partner and not be like afraid of pain or like embarrassed by something or whatever the emotion is you're feeling, like you're going to be, one, a better person yourself, two, a better servant to both your family and your community. And you're going to be able to spread that joy and love too. And so it's always bigger than the pelvic floor, for sure.
I'll add on to that. I don't know why, but like for some reason, we're always like, my husband is a doctor and I know about the body and things like that. But I think there's always something in my brain that's telling me that like the pelvic floor is separate from everything else for some reason, right? So when I first went to go see Dr. Betty's doc, she dry needled my calf. And I was like, but I mean, and you know, she's kind of walked me through it. This is how it's all connected, X, Y, Z. And I was like, no shit. You know, those things just make total sense when someone is not afraid to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I love that so much. Well, I feel like when we get into that space, sometimes we feel like there's something wrong with us, or people are going to judge us, or that it's just not very common. And we kind of feel like we're alone because we are afraid to talk about it. So I think that with Tabitha, with you being so open with me and sharing with me, it like totally expanded my mindset, my perspective of things, and that it's not just me. It's 97% of people with back pain, right? Like 1 out of 2 women. So it's more common, and just being able to be open with the conversation, and then being able to have the resources available to be able to say, call Dr. Taylor, call Dr. Betty, and they might needle your calf. Like, right? Because I think I wouldn't think that would be something that would happen. It would probably be a little bit intimidating and scary, I guess, going in and not really knowing what to expect. So what can a patient expect when they come into your practice, Dr. Betty, at Reborn Pelvic Health and Wellness?
So when you come in, you'll do a bunch of paperwork ahead of time online, detailed medical history. We'll ask all the TMI questions, pooping, peeing, sex, all that stuff, births, pregnancies. And then we'll do a full deep dive movement analysis on you when you come in. And then we'll walk you through step by step, like what we're going to do, how we're going to do things, especially for the internal part. So we'll use a demoed model pelvis and just kind of show you, okay, I'm going to touch you here, and then I'm going to work my way around a clock-like fashion. Then I'm going to insert my finger with lube. Obviously, everything's with consent, and consent is always evolving. So you can change your mind at any point in time, or anytime you're uncomfortable, please let me know. And being very respectful throughout that, and then show them what we're going to do when we're internal, so that they know exactly what's going to happen. And then when we perform the internal exam, we're literally walking them through the same language we did on the model, so that they know every single touch point where we're going to touch and what we're going to do. And then we guide them through what's next. Okay, how does that feel? We're always in constant communication and feedback through that. And then after we've done that full body exam on you, including the internal side, we'll come up with a plan of care. And that basically means, how often are we going to see you, for how long, and what are the things that we're going to work on specific to your body that you individually and personally need. Because we could have like 10 people say, I pee my pants when I sneeze. I'm like, okay, great. That doesn't, from my seat, I'm like, that sucks. But like, that doesn't mean anything to me until I've examined you, because I need to figure out why that's happening and what's the root cause of that, because it could be literally different for every single one of those people, the reason why. And so we need to individualize that care specifically to what that person needs, so that their body can function the way it needs to, optimally, without leaking. And so just making sure that we're individualizing that out. We'll also perform treatment that first day, and then send you home with some homework exercises to work on. And then each session usually builds on each other, to build that solid foundation, so that you can build resiliency in your system as well. So you're not like, oh, okay, but then if I fall down the stairs, like, is everything going to come back? Or if I, do something else, like we want to break down that barrier of like, oh my gosh, what if this happens? Like, we want that resilience in your body to be like, oh no, I got you, body. Like, I got you. And I can take this challenge on, and really reach new heights that you never thought possible. That's probably the coolest part of my job, is I get moms in here that are like, oh, I haven't ran since before I had kids, or I've had SI joint pain since my first kid. And then they're back to like lifting heavy weights, running and sprinting and like doing all these things. They're like, I never thought I could do this again. And that is like the most incredible feeling to be part of their journey through that. And so that's kind of what like it looks like from a evaluation standpoint and walking people through. So I tend to get a little long-winded. I'm super passionate about all this.
I love the passion, and it comes across with how you show up. And that's what I want out of my doctor. I don't want to go to someone who's totally not passionate or excited about talking what it is that they do. That's one of the things that drew me so much to Tabitha and Dr. Taylor, because they are so passionate about it. They live it, and they are committed to impacting the community, impacting the world. And that is that's what the intention of this show is to do, is to impact the health and wellness of the entire world. So I love that so much, how life-changing and impactful it is with what you do. I can tell you from my own experience, to be able to lift things. I have neurological Lyme disease. So there's a lot of things that I never thought that I would be able to do again. And I've gotten to the point where I'm taking running like for granted. Like I just ran and totally wasn't even like thinking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can do that now. And I'm not in my head mourning the loss of the body that I had before I had kids, if that makes sense. And I don't know if that's normal, but mourning the loss of, the little girl that you were before you had a baby, and then the impact it has on you when you're able to go back to do things that you did when you were a little girl before, you had kids. And with Tabitha, with kids not being involved, but just the evolution of your body as we go through different phases in life, the abilities of our body is able to change. So this isn't just for women who have had kids, it's for everyone. So Tabitha, I love that you shared that, the impact it's had on you with never carrying a baby in your body. So Tabitha, when it comes to the chiropractic side of things, I'm guessing you guys have some pretty amazing stories too of people that come to you for care, and then they're able to do things that they weren't able to do before. You guys focus more on the nervous system. And so then do you refer people to Dr. Betty for pelvic things, or are there things that Dr. Taylor can do in his office that support with pelvic care?
We tell basically everyone we know about Dr. Betty. We really adore her. We become good friends with her. We try to meet monthly, because not only do we have similar backgrounds in our belief system about holistic health and preventative care and things like that, but we're also like at similar points in business. And so we have a lot to talk about pretty much all the time. I actually think we have a coffee date coming up on Friday, right? And so I tell basically everyone about her pretty regularly, to be honest. Like I just had a health talk with a dentist office that's in our complex. And I was like, they all recently had kids. And I was like, do you guys know about Dr. Betty? Have you guys heard about her? Because you should go, right? But so we do try to work a lot together. I don't know if any of it has really come through yet. Maybe someday someone will listen to me, but I think we have a long way to go on both sides, all of the holistic healthcare providers, to teach people what we do and how we can help, and that you don't have to rely on hospitals, for solutions, that we are also an acceptable solution, maybe even a better solution in a lot of cases. And so there's a lot of work to be done, but we don't do all we really do is align the joints, right? We make sure the hips are, like my hips are a couple degrees off. And I think that's where a lot of my pelvic floor pain came from. I think that happens to a lot of women. So we like to make sure that we're assisting, especially women who are pregnant, by keeping that aligned, keeping your sacrum aligned, things like that, making sure your nervous system is functioning properly. And so we work really well in tandem together, because she focuses a lot on muscles and ligaments and things like that. So it really is like a perfect harmony situation.
Yeah, so people can come to Dr. Taylor and see results and impact in their pelvic floor health. And that is more with the alignment side of things, where it would be in partnership with what Dr. Betty does.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with that. And also, if you think of your body kind of laterally, so if you draw kind of where you have back pain and we're to draw a line around to the front part of you and look at what organs are there. So like if you have low back pain, you have a nerve that's being pinched in your low back, that nerve is going to an organ, a cell, muscle, tissue that's being pinched, and the messages that are coming from the brain to be delivered to that organ are not getting through. So that's not functioning properly. So just not only by focusing on the bones and the structure of the bones and the perfect alignment of the bones, we're also helping to make sure that the messages from the brain that are telling your gallbladder to work, that are telling your lungs to work, that are telling your heart to, that all of that is free of nerve interference as well, so that everything can function properly.
Awesome. So I'm just curious, are there some things usually towards the end of the show, we talk about action steps for the week. Are there things that people can do from home or everyday things? If you were to give people assignments for a week, our viewers assignments for the week, what would that look like if we were to come up with three action steps or 3 things they could take on to help with their pelvic floor health?
You go, Dr. B.
Awesome. Well, you can call us. We'd be happy to help you. And I think you have all the information for that. We are open to helping anyone that owns a vagina. That's our focus.
I love that.
Yep. And then I just want to touch on what you said about change, or helping the world and stuff like that. We always say we're trying to change the world one vagina at a time. And yeah, it's so great. And so we have a couple online resources as well. I have a Reborn Adore Your Pelvic Floor Kickstart. It's a 5-day video series on our website for $47. We also have a freebies page too that has a bunch of PDF downloads for people to consume and kind of get some starter points on things. And then we also have an online course that's very robust. It's basically everything that I want my grandma, my mom, my sisters, my friends, and my daughters to know about their pelvic health from both my personal and professional opinions. And so that's called The Optimal Vagina Beyond Kegels. And so that's another thing that can be done from home. Again, all educational. None of it's going to give you the answer that you need, but it'll help you go in the right direction for the right care with the right provider, and also get you to understand and learn about your own body, a lot of what's been missed in a lot of education. And then it helps set you up for huge success when you do come in for that individualized, personalized in-person care, because truly that's gold standard of you need an expert person to help you figure it out. You can't go in and manipulate. I mean, you can manipulate some joints yourself, but then you're not getting the right one, right? And then you can't dry needle yourself, and you can't be oh yeah, this part here is connected to there. That's why you take your car to the mechanic. Take your body to the mechanic. That's gold standard. But those are all other supplementary things that people can do.
And is that found at your website?
Yep.
www.rebornphw.com.
You got it.
Okay, perfect. So
you also do parties, Dr. Betty?
I do parties too.
What?
So kind of
this is amazing.
Yeah,
I love this.
Mom's night, ladies' nights out. And so you get a bunch of girlfriends together with some food, drinks, and stuff like that. And I show up with my pelvis, and we talk about all things pelvic health and answer all the questions, and kind of like a Mary Kay party, but we pelvic floor.
I love that so much. So your action steps that you would give people is more education about your own body.
Yep. Right.
So
couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So educating about your own. So how empowering is that? That's with what I do as an intuitive empowerment coach, is empower people to know how their own body works, what foods feed your unique body, because we're all different. And so all of our bodies are going to need different things. So I love that you are all about empowering people to know their own body, and it's not a one size fits all. So it's not a one size fits all solution, because everybody is unique, which is why you want to go see an expert. Because with incontinence, when you said that people leak for different reasons, I was okay, that's pretty phenomenal that everyone's body is unique and different, but you would then need a specialist for that. So what about for you, Tabitha? Do you have any action steps that you would give people to take on? Like common action steps that you would give people before they make an appointment with you and Dr. Taylor?
And it may seem simple, but one of the things that I think that I learned from Dr. Betty is practicing being comfortable talking about those things. Practice saying the word vagina to your closest friend and kind of talking about what are some of the issues that you have, and learning and being more comfortable about your body. And it's going to better allow you to be comfortable seeking the help that you need.
Okay, so practicing getting comfortable.
I had never said I have pain with intercourse to like anyone until I said it to Dr. Betty, and it's like, wouldn't I have felt better reaching out to her, and it wouldn't have taken me less time to reach out to her had I felt more comfortable talking about those things beforehand.
Yeah, I think the only person I talked about that with was my partner, and even then it was like I felt some kind of like something was wrong with me, like it wasn't an easy conversation. So I love that. So getting comfortable with talking about your body and how what's going on in your body. Do you have maybe one or two more that you would suggest?
Know who your experts are. Get active and meeting the people in your community that are really trying to be game changers and change the way that we think about health, and for all the different things and all the different experts that are near you, so that you know where to go when you do start feeling like you need some additional assistance.
Yeah. And what about a third one?
I'm just going to say sunshine. Everyone needs sunshine. My husband, Dr. Taylor, was feeling a little under the weather this past weekend, had a headache, a little bit of a low fever. And I was like, you need to go get your vitamin D. It's a beautiful day. 20 to 30 minutes of sunshine a day is life-changing, immune system changing. Everyone needs it.
Yeah, I give that homework to my clients, 15 minutes a day at least. That's mandatory, at least 15 minutes. Definitely, if it's possible, to get more because of the impact it has on your sleep, on your immune system. It's a very powerful one. All right. Well, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you ladies would like to touch on? We've got about 10 minutes left in our show.
Dr. B?
Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our viewers before we go?
Any questions you have, I'm game. I literally could talk about this all day long. I do talk about it all day long. So, I mean, I keep going and going and going. So if there's any questions that you specifically have, I'm happy to answer them or dive down some rabbit holes too.
Yeah. So for me, I'm really big into nutrition. And so are there specific foods or things that you would eat that would benefit your pelvis or your pelvic area? Is that a weird question?
Oh, we talk about all that stuff all the time. So in general, just a healthy diet, more whole foods than processed foods. And we would focus a lot on like fiber intake for pooping and having good bowel movements, water intake as well for both. A lot of times when people leak, they think, if I drink less water, I'll leak less. But actually that's not the case. It actually irritates your bladder more and you usually have more leaking. So we want to make sure you're hydrated. So standard normal basics of like drink water, eat fiber, eat green leafy vegetables, an anti-inflammatory type diet, because inflammation is a huge thing in the nervous system and the tissue quality and how your body's responding to a bunch of different things. So the standard around those things and just helping support the way the body's supposed to function in general. And so no matter what, if you're not eating well, sleeping, getting rest and stress reduction, like it doesn't matter what we do, we'll only get so far because you're a whole person. And so we have to make sure that we come around that whole health and wellness around each and all of those things too. And that's where you're going to get your biggest success, is making sure all of your ducks are in a row.
Yeah, I love that. Well, because I do a reset cleanse. And before I give it to my clients, I always have to try it out myself. Right. And what I did was I was going to only whole foods that come from Mother Earth and are not processed from a package. And I started out with like vegetables and then fruit and just kind of worked my way up. And I realized that when I eat eggs, my ovaries hurt. So I have pain with intercourse after having eggs because eggs are an inflammatory. But it wasn't until I went on an anti-inflammatory diet that I was able to put the two together of like, okay, when I eat eggs, my eggs hurt. Like it made a huge impact. And so I know if I'm going to eat eggs and have intercourse that I'm going to hurt. But when I don't have eggs, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like I feel like it makes a huge impact. I don't think people realize really when you eat healthy, whole, nutritious foods that aren't processed in a package, how good it makes you feel, not to mention how good it also makes you look, because I promise I have, the pictures, like it reversed my age, like getting all of the sugar and the crap out of my system. It was like my skin was glowing. My wrinkles maybe weren't as defined. I don't know. But I love that you touched on that, because I think that's when we were talking about with Dr. Taylor on that episode that we were on together. I was like, oh, eggs. And Tabitha was like, no, there's more to it than just eggs. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's right. Toxins are one of the leading causes of nervous system dysfunction, right? So, and what people don't realize, a lot of people don't realize is all the things that you're putting in your body or on your body every day, household cleaners, makeup, lotion, all the crap that's in our food these days. There's sugar in everything. Like if you can just reduce those things, you're going to feel so much better and have way less dysfunction all the way around.
Yeah, well, with neurological Lyme disease, it literally feeds on sugar. And so for me, I definitely feel it when I have sugar and when I don't have sugar. So it seems really simple. Just eat healthy food and you'll feel healthy. But again, that's part of the narrative that we're not really pushed in marketing campaigns. It's like all of the junk. You don't see a campaign for like apples or oranges on TV or spinach. Like you see things that are like fast food or cereal, like that's not necessarily good for you, healthy for you. So it's definitely an uphill battle, but I feel more confident surrounded by women like you with what it is that you're committed to creating in the world, knowing you're experts and then being able to share what it is that you guys do and then the impact that it has. Yeah, I feel like health and wellness, like this stuff should be taught in schools, not just, specialized.
Yeah, we've all been given a very big job of trying to make our communities healthier and better educate those around us. But we can do it if we, know who our teammates are and work together. I think there's a lot of us that feel alone in our lofty goals that we've set for ourselves to really bring forth impact and make change. And it's just opened up a whole new world whenever you find out who all of your experts are and start working with them, communicating with them on a regular basis, because you're learning from each other as well, moving forward and trying to really change the face of things.
Yeah, well, it's true. I think just at football, walking around the track and talking with you and Taylor, I was like, this person I'm sending to you, because when I realized you guys do help with infertility, you guys do help with a lot of things that are passionate to people that I love and care about, that they just feel like helpless and hopeless and that they won't ever be able to conceive a child. It's like, no, let's go see Dr. Betty and go see Tabitha and Dr. Taylor first. It's not hopeless. Like let's exhaust every, possibility before we give up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is true, there are stories out there that I just wanted to finally, I guess, lastly share that a couple that we've been seeing with chiropractic for several months now had been told truthfully that they probably would not be getting pregnant, period, are 4 weeks pregnant.
Yeah.
And so we're so excited and just, hopeful.
Yeah. How amazing is that? Those are stories that need to be shared. It would be really amazing to have a show and have, couples like that on and talk about the impact that radical chiropractic chiropractic has had on their in their lives, and same with Reborn Pelvic Health and Wellness. Those testimonials from people, so that people see there is hope. Being told that you can't conceive a baby, I can imagine, would be a really hard thing to deal with. But being able to hear those stories, I think I have someone in my family, it took them 8 years to conceive, and by they had given up, like completely given up, and she was just sitting on the front porch bawling, and she was so emotional because she was pregnant. But it's like it took her giving up, like this is never going to happen, before it happened. So, well, I would love to have you guys back another time, maybe to talk about some of these things more in depth now that you've been introduced to the community here. I do have lofty goals of impacting 100 million lives around the globe, which isn't very much when you think about the population in the world. So I feel very honored and privileged to be in the same community as you two. I'm in Harriman. I think that Tabitha, you guys are in West Jordan, and Dr. Betty is in South Jordan.
I live in South Jordan, but our clinic's in West Jordan.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is perfect. Thank you for what you're doing to impact our community and the health and wellness of the planet, to support people with living life to the fullest, having their happiest, healthiest lives. It's really, I love it, because it's definitely close to my heart as well.
Totally. Thanks so much for having me on. This was fun. Yeah.
Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks for having us. We love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, we'll wrap up. The tools, support, accountability that you need to live your happiest, healthiest life is beyond the purple door. Open the damn door. Love you guys.